In what may be the most insane political strategy I have ever seen, Joe Biden and the Democrats have decided to try to out-Trump Donald Trump on China. That's right. Taking the approach in a new ad that Joe Biden is tough on China, that China is the problem, and that Trump rolled over for the Chinese. That's right. The man who for over a decade has been ragging on China, supported politicians because of their anti-China positions, a man who for a decade was calling for tariffs on China and then who got elected and did it. He's rolling over for the Chinese. You've lost the plot. You know what's so crazy about this is that for the past several weeks, the media has been smearing Trump, saying that the Republicans and Donald Trump are using China as a scapegoat when it comes to COVID. They called him xenophobic. Joe Biden criticized the president for his travel ban. Nancy Pelosi launched the No Ban Act. They were not on board with Trump's tough call against China. Did Trump do a good enough job in dealing with the coronavirus early on? Well, that's up to it's up to you, your opinion. Hindsight is 2020. I honestly don't know if anyone could have done better, but I'll tell you this. If you think Trump did bad and he wasn't strong enough, the Democrats were going the other direction. Joe Biden tweeted, "No travel ban is going to stop this. We need to work together." Nancy Pelosi, as I mentioned, had the No Ban Act. So what makes you think that after 10 years of strong messaging from Donald Trump saying that China is a problem, you are going to win this battle? My mind is blown. The media gave them a free pass. The media wanted them to say that Trump is scapegoating China. But perhaps we're learning something else. I don't think the DNC would launch these attack ads unless they had data behind it. Now, it's possible they're completely incompetent, but it's also possible the media is so out of touch with this country. The more they ran articles claiming that Trump was scapegoating China, the further away from the people they actually got, and the Democrats know it. Let's take a look at this. I want to show you some of what's going on with the new Joe Biden Democrat attack ad, which I think they've lost it. Listen, if the best you can come up with is China is bad and that's why you should vote for Joe Biden, you are supporting Donald Trump. You're going full MAGA. I mean, Trump's been talking about this for 10 years. So you might as well put on a MAGA cap and say, Trump's right, but I'm better. That's the best you got? I'm going to show you how the media played this, and I'm going to go back in time and show you how tough Trump has been, or at least several articles showing Donald Trump has really gone after China, man. Check this out. Brian Klass tweets, "This is a devastatingly good Biden ad." First of all, no, it actually isn't. They show a clip from February 25th of Joe Biden saying, I would be tough on China and send people on the ground. And then they show quotes from Trump from early in the month, like February 9th or something. That's the wrong order. You're supposed to show Biden before Trump criticizing China. They don't play it out well. But we have an article here from CNN. They say Biden campaign launches counterattack on Trump over coronavirus and China. Before we get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's several ways that you can give. I even got a physical address, but the best thing you can do, share this video. YouTube has algorithmic pressure on me that suppresses my content and props up the mainstream media. If you go to youtube.com, you will see their fancy little COVID section with all the big mainstream media companies who get free press. I don't. I also don't have a massive marketing budget. So if you really like my content, sharing is the most powerful thing you can do, much more powerful than the YouTube algorithm. Also, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, the like button, the notification bell, and hopefully YouTube will actually suggest my videos to you or whatever. Maybe you don't like my content, but I appreciate you watching. Let's read from CNN. The Biden campaign on Friday launched a new counterattack on President Donald Trump and his response to the coronavirus pandemic, zeroing in on his approach to dealing with China throughout the crisis. In a pair of digital videos, the Biden campaign argues the president put the U.S. in an ill-prepared position to deal with the outbreak and was not forceful enough in demanding transparency from Chinese leaders. I really appreciate CNN framing this as a positive for Joe Biden, because he didn't just say that. He said Trump rolled over for China. I also appreciate CNN. Well, we'll see if they mention Nancy Pelosi and Biden's criticisms of Trump when he tried to go hard on China. Quote, "The uncomfortable truth is that this president left America exposed and vulnerable to this pandemic," former Vice President Joe Biden said in one of the videos. He ignored the warnings of health experts and intelligence agencies and put his trust in China's leaders instead. In a separate video, Tony Blinken, former Deputy Secretary of State and Foreign Policy Advisor to Biden, said President Trump went soft on China when it mattered most. Joe Biden will insist that China live up to its responsibilities. The videos highlight how the Biden campaign plans on making Trump's response to coronavirus central to their argument against him in the 2020 election. Hey, You could do that. There's tons of fake news floating out there making the president look bad. But I'll tell you what, trying to claim he's soft on China is probably not the smartest way to go about it. The coordinated effort comes as Trump and his allies have waged their own campaign to paint Biden as soft on China. Responding to the former vice president's video Friday, Andrew Clark, rapid response director for President Trump's re-election campaign, pointed to more than 4 decades of Joe Biden spent in Washington bowing to Beijing. The American people won't forget that. You want to know the other reason it is absolutely insane for the Bidens and for Joe Biden and the Democrats to use this line of attack? Because Hunter Biden has business dealings in China and Ukraine. Now, of course, you can argue about Trump's business dealings in China and Ukraine, his families. That's fine. But it's still insane for you to walk into that conundrum. You could have used that against Trump. Instead, you have now opened yourself up to that criticism. They weren't thinking, were they? Or they were. It could be the American public knows that China is a real threat, no matter what the media says, and the Democrats had absolutely no choice. And if that's the case, yeah, there's nothing you can do. You're going to lose. Let's read more. Last week, the president's re-election campaign released an ad attempting to portray Biden as overly friendly with China, but it included deceptive audio clips and images. Oh, really? Including suggesting Gary Locke, the former governor of Washington, was a Chinese official. The Trump campaign has also tried to make issue of Biden's son Hunter and his past business dealings with China. These media outlets don't have a unified narrative. And so the problem is, I got one story I want to show you where they're actually criticizing Hunter Biden, saying it's going to drag Trump down. That's from the New Yorker, a rather lefty publication. They don't have the benefit, right? Conservative media and Trump supporters are typically unified around their messaging, whether intentionally or not. The left is absolutely not. So while CNN frames things to benefit Biden and the New York Times runs defense for Biden, downplaying the allegations against him, the rest, other left-wing media websites and companies aren't following the same message. So it's just making everything look, dejected and kind of crazy. Quote, President Trump's false attacks on Vice President Biden are just another attempt to distract from the president's failure to stand up to China for American workers. You are nuts. If that's the line you're going for, man, you are nuts. That's crazy. Oh, man. And more importantly, more immediately today is failure to prepare our country for the coronavirus pandemic. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio told reporters on a Friday call for the Biden campaign. We know President Trump's playbook, divide and distract. The American people know better. China and the coronavirus pandemic have quickly turned into top campaign issues for both sides. On Thursday, pro-Trump America First Action announced $10 million ad campaign in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, which will target the former vice president over China. The pro-Biden group American Bridge countered with its own $15 million ad campaign in the same key battleground states, slamming Trump for his approach to China during the coronavirus pandemic. Throughout the crisis, Biden has criticized Trump's response to the pandemic on the health and economic fronts. He recently accused the president of having a temper tantrum while Americans are dying. The two men shared a rare moment of direct communication earlier this month when they spoke by phone about coronavirus, with both sides describing their conversation as cordial. Remember when Donald Trump said that we were going to have a travel ban? And then Joe Biden said, travel bans don't work. We need to cooperate. No, the virus knows no boundaries. And then a month later, Joe Biden said, I actually agree with the travel ban. It's because they have no unified plan. They don't know what the American people want. They didn't know what the American people wanted in 2016. And the media is keeping them in a fog. Let me show you. Take a look at this story from Salon. March 30th, Donald Trump needs a coronavirus scapegoat, and right now it's China. Unable to accept responsibility, Trump has to find someone to blame for his failure to prepare for the pandemic. All right, let's take this story and frame it for Joe Biden's campaign ad. With no real campaign strategy, Joe Biden relies on scapegoating China. So in an effort to win re-election, because if you're going to operate from the assumption that China did nothing wrong, Salon, well, then Joe Biden certainly must be scapegoating as well, because he's in desperate need of some kind of wedge issue to set him apart from Trump. Is that your argument? But wait, there's more. Check out this story. April 14th, Donald Trump's scapegoat hunt. Blame China, blame Fauci, blame the governors. Oh, blame China, you say? You see, the media keeps up with this narrative. How about Al Jazeera? China emerges as coronavirus scapegoat in U.S. election campaign. Coronavirus has reshaped the political map of the presidential race, putting Republicans on the defensive in key states. If an attack advertisement now being rolled out are any indication, United States President Donald Trump and his campaign managers have settled on a scapegoat for the coronavirus pandemic that has upended his re-election prospects: China. So they go on to mention Joe Biden. They say new advertisements now hitting 3 critical battleground states cast likely Democratic challenger Joe Biden as friendly to China while championing Trump's decision in January to ban travel from China after the country's coronavirus outbreak. And then, of course, we know that Joe Biden ran similar ads. We have this story from the New York Times. This one's actually updated today. A key GOP strategy: blame China, but Trump goes off message. Republicans increasingly believe that elevating China's culpability for spreading the coronavirus may be the best way to improve their difficult election chances. The president is muddying the message. Difficult election chances. New York Times, I am impressed. Moody's Analytics, at last I checked, said Trump was going to win because the economy. Now, of course, because of the pandemic, they may be saying that it will be difficult for Trump. I just don't really believe it. I mean, this is unprecedented. We don't know how voters are going to react to this. The economy was doing really, really well, and now it's doing bad. I guess we'll see. When Trump had really great numbers, most people just assumed he was going to win because people wouldn't be out to vote. But if people believe Trump is doing a good job on the coronavirus, they'll probably vote for him. But hey, I don't know if it's fair to say he's got difficult chances, especially when his approval rating is higher than it was when he got elected, but it's been going up. The big point, though, I will say, is that one of the factors for Trump's victory was the hate of Hillary campaign. People hated her so much that contributed a lot to Donald Trump's win. If progressives who are mad at Joe Biden and the DNC turn and support Trump to punish the left, the Democrats, like they did in 2016, then I think Trump's going to win. Take a look at this story from earlier today. I covered this on my other channel. For those listening on the podcast, you'll hear this later. Crenshaw and Maher clash over Trump. Is the goal to make President Trump look bad or to get to the truth? In this segment, Bill Maher criticizes Donald Trump for not being tougher on his travel ban. And it's the weirdest thing to see people on the left take this position. They criticize Trump when he bans travel from 7 high-risk nations, or however they call it. But a moratorium on travel was, I believe, suggested by the Obama administration. They say it's bad. Because of this, when Trump enacted the travel ban on China, Joe Biden criticized it. Many people criticized it. News outlets across the board said it wouldn't work. Right now, we're seeing the complete inversion. We're seeing them say in this ad from Joe Biden that 40,000 people still entered from China because Trump's travel ban wasn't strong enough. So let me get this straight. Trump enacted a travel ban, and you don't like that he did, but you criticized him for it. And that's the interesting question that's brought up. Dan Crenshaw, in this interview with Bill Maher, says those 40,000 people were passport holders, Americans being repatriated. I guess if you want to make the argument they shouldn't have been allowed in, you can. But he wasn't allowing Chinese nationals to enter the country. These were passport and green card holders. So it's being misframed by Joe Biden. But it's the strangest strategy, I must say. Perhaps they realize there's no way out. We see this tweet from Cecilia Wang. She is a civil rights lawyer, former public defender, currently deputy legal director, National ACLU. Here's what she tweeted. Wow, Joe Biden, already trying to out-Trump Trump. This kind of fear-mongering is causing violent attacks on Asian Americans. If you're trying to reform your past history of racist policymaking, like your 1994 crime bill, you had better do some homework. This ain't it. She goes on. For those who can't tell the difference between any two people with an Asian face and who don't know me, I am no fan of either the U.S. government or the PRC government. Don't at me. Be gone, all of you trolls and bots. She says, I desperately want Joe Biden to beat Trump. Of course I do. But I don't want him to foment racist scapegoating. And I want him to build a platform all of us can fight for. And in carrying it out for us once he's in office. Once again, this ain't it. Of all the ways Trump has actively obstructed a sensible public policy on COVID, causing countless lives lost in the U.S., Joe Biden's going to fixate on the PRC angle and put out a propaganda film that will fuel racist attacks on Asian Americans. No, I'm not having it. You've got progressives and the ACLU slamming Joe Biden over this. Perhaps the Democrats have learned you can't chase after woke progressivism to win. Maybe this is the big shift. Well, I got something for that too, but let's move on because I got another tweet here. Sarah Lazar, who was a reporter for In These Times magazine, anti-China nationalism is hampering international cooperation in response to the COVID-19 crisis. being used to push for further U.S. militarization of the Asia Pacific and fueling a spate of racist attacks on Asian Americans. This right-wing talking point needs to stop. Bravo, Joe Biden. You thought you could out-Trump Donald Trump on China? The people on the left, the Democrats and the progressives, think you've just gone full on MAGA. I mean, look, if they're going to argue that he's trying to out-Trump Trump, then I'm going to say it. Joe Biden might as well put on that MAGA cap because he's agreeing with Trump's policy positions. Don't believe me? Take a look at this story. April 29th, 2011. Mother Jones, a left-wing outlet. Despite the fact that some of his clothing is made in China, Trump bashed the Middle Kingdom. If elected president, what would his message to China be? Listen, you mother effers, we're going to tax you 25%. Trump said that in 2011. Oh, I got more for you. How the Donald could incite a trade war. April 18, 2011. Trump's call for a 25% tariff on Chinese goods is winning him a lot of attention as he weighs a presidential run in 2012. How about this story from CNN? Trump, U.S. is a laughingstock. Once again, February 10th, 2011, talking about Trump slamming China. He wants to put a 25% tariff. I went back to 2011. And Donald Trump has been saying this stuff. Donald Trump campaigned on this message. He promoted it for years before even running. And Joe Biden thinks he's going to co-opt that message. Okay, so Joe Biden really isn't going full MAGA, but he's certainly going fairly MAGA to the point where progressives are criticizing him for pushing right-wing talking points. I love it, man. And here's another one. Did Donald Trump endorse Mitt Romney because of China? At first glance, Mitt Romney and Donald Trump seem an odd couple. But Mr. Trump's pugnacity is more Gingrichian than Romney-esque. Those are terrible words, by the way. Yet there was Trump bestowing a blessing on a smiling Romney. And they say one word, China. How are you going to try and claim that Trump is weak on China when we literally mock the dude for saying China all the time? China. It's a meme. There's a meme of Donald Trump's lips being pursed all nasty like and China slowly coming out of it. You can't. What is Joe Biden doing? I love it, man. Here's another story from the New Yorker. Will Hunter Biden jeopardize his father's campaign? Joe Biden's son is under scrutiny for his business dealings and tumultuous personal life. July 1st, 2019. Oh, yeah. How about this one? They talk about, here, let me read it. In 2012, Archer and Hunter talked to Jonathan Lee, who ran a Chinese private equity fund, Bohai Capital, about becoming partners in a new company that would invest Chinese capital and potentially capital from other countries in companies outside China. We have numerous highlighting of his business dealings with China. Secret Empires, which details Hunter's activities in China and Ukraine. Blah, blah, blah. You get the point. Here's one. Oh, let me read it. Schweitzer asserts that Rosemont Seneca Partners had been negotiating an exclusive deal with Chinese officials, which they signed approximately 10 days after Hunter visited China with his father. In fact, that deal had been signed before the trip, according to the BHR representative. It was a business license that came through shortly afterward, and Hunter was not a signatory. Hunter and Archer said they had never met with any Chinese officials about that fund. Well, listen, you want to argue about Hunter's business dealings, what he did or didn't do, whether it was good or bad. The narrative is certainly an explosive one. Hunter Biden had business dealings, and they've been dealing with the bad press for a while, so much so that it was almost a year ago. They were concerned that Hunter Biden was a liability for Joe Biden. Why then would Joe Biden try to use the China attack ad? I couldn't tell you, but I got bad news for the progressives. The Hill reports progressives look for concession with Biden from running rate. Are you serious? He just turned his back on you and went full on Donald Trump's China position. He doesn't care what you have to say, and he's not going to bring it up. So you might as well give up on this one. I don't understand why they would use China, but I can say it seems that they've realized the American people do not trust China, view them as a threat, and probably, in all likelihood, blame them for the coronavirus. I'd imagine the DNC is spending a lot of money to figure out what people are thinking. The media, not so much. You see, news organizations and outlets like Salon or whatever, when they write these articles claiming that Trump is scapegoating China, they're responding to clicks, shares, analytics, right? So if you have a large audience of people that respond very well to these kind of talking points, you're going to roll with it. Joe Biden is trying to get everybody, which means their consultants are looking at hard data. And what did they find? Well, they found the American people really do think China is to blame. And that means Joe Biden's only choice was to go after Trump on China. I bet they know they're going to lose. I bet they absolutely know they are going to lose because they can't win. Trump's a decade in front of Joe Biden. Joe Biden was behind the curve only a few months ago. And how do you think the American people are going to respond to this? These ads aren't in a vacuum. Joe Biden's advertisements are going out alongside Donald Trump's. They're both accusing each other, but I'll tell you what. Trump supporters have Trump's back. They agree with him. They are saying straight up Trump has been hard on China. The left is tearing Joe Biden apart over this. They will not vote for you. Well, I can say this. Respect to Joe Biden and the Democrats for finally getting the message. You cannot win by courting the far left woke crowd. Now, I don't think you can win by abandoning even, I don't know what to call them. They're not moderates, these people on Twitter. But there's a difference between the ultra woke activists like AOC and Democrats who are trying to play tribal politics. There's going to be a lot of people on the left and in media who are not ultra woke, but won't adopt this message and they won't support you in it. They will criticize you in it. In which case, a lot of Democrats, many of whom are not paying attention or watching the news, are not going to vote for you. The progressives certainly won't, no matter what you do. So it is smart. They can try and take away some of the votes from Donald Trump by going for the middle ground. That is the smart move to make. But in the end, Biden, you've lost it. You could have been on board with what was correct from the get-go, but you weren't. The only option they have now is to try and siphon away what Trump is already doing. I find it fascinating. I wondered why it is the left went so far left, and I think it's because Donald Trump campaigned on many moderate positions. That meant if Donald Trump came out and said, we want to help the workers, we want to have a border barrier, whatever, the Democrats had no choice but to oppose him, to present some kind of alternative. It was a mistake. There's no harm in saying, I agree with Trump on this issue, but I disagree on this issue. Instead, they went after everything he says is wrong. Maybe this was part of Trump's strategy. He's very, very bombastic and sensational. He says things that are very direct, forcing his opponents to abandon them. That way, when he walks back to a middle ground position, lightens the rhetoric, they've already disagreed with what he's saying. I'm not saying it's 4D chess. Maybe Trump's just naturally good at whatever it is he's doing. But if you come out and say something really ridiculous, like we're going to ban everyone and build a giant wall, a big, beautiful 30-foot concrete wall, well, then you get the Democrats saying that's ridiculous, no wall. Then Trump says, what I really meant is we're going to secure it properly with a fence. The Democrats have already adopted the position, no wall. In fact, in order to win the nomination, Beto O'Rourke, for instance, said tear the wall down. The exact opposite of what Trump was doing. Yet the Democrats before Trump were in favor of a border barrier. You see how Trump tricked them into supporting the opposing position that made no sense, whether it was on purpose or not. And that brings us to where we are today, with Joe Biden trying to literally take Trump's position. I think they're learning. And congratulations, they're finally learning. It's correct. China is at fault. I think you're wrong in trying to blame Trump. You're not going to win this fight. But at least now they're realizing they can't just say everything Trump does is wrong. Although they're kind of saying what he does is wrong, they're attacking the strength of his plan, not the direction of it. It's a smart move, but not good enough. So perhaps they realized what the American people are thinking. Perhaps they realized the media is incorrect, and perhaps they're going to lose anyway. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 6 p.m. at youtube.com/TimCastNews. It is a different channel, and I will see you all then.